Hello, everybody. Today is Wednesday, May 13th. You are at the K8s Infra bi-weekly meeting. I am your host, Aaron Krickenberger. You are all being recorded, as this will be posted to YouTube later. And you can watch yourselves adhering to the Kubernetes Code of Conduct, where you are basically being your very best selves. So I would normally take the time to welcome any new members, but I feel like I see a bunch of familiar faces here today. Thank you all for showing up. I'll start today off the way we start every meeting by taking a look at our billing report and seeing how that matches up with what Tim sees for the actual billing. So let me share.
I'm loading up my view at the same time.
Cool. We have been spending money.
That was the goal of this whole effort, right?
Huh?
All right, show me what dates, April 15 to May 12. Let me load the same dates. Let's see. April 15, tax day, to May 12th. I see 50.56, and you see what, 50.93. So we're off by tens of dollars, which is roughly of the same order percentage that we are usually off by. So
Okay.
SGTM.
Something I just wanted to get into. If I take away Kubernetes public and its artifact prod, billing is for just testing right now.
Sorry, can you speak up?
Yeah, here, microphone closer. If I take away the billing due to the Kubernetes public project, which I believe is the AAA cluster, and if I take away K8s artifacts prod, this I believe is all of the billing due to testing right now, for what it's worth.
It looks like we're spending quite a lot on stack driver logging, but I don't know if that's expected. That looks like the bit that's growing over time as well.
It does. I wish I could explain to you why that's happening. I unfortunately cannot. This is also news to me. So what I'm going to do real quick is also take out the projects that run the build clusters and see if it's due to end-to-end tests.
Yeah. We've definitely managed to rack up a fairly hefty stack driver bill in the past at JetStack by accident. So
apologies while I remember that we have a search function. So it looks like it's the end-to-end tests. So this is all of the resource usage in the end-to-end projects themselves. So this is where test clusters are getting stood up and are running. The end-to-end tests that exercise them are happening elsewhere.
okay, so it seems like the nodes themselves are persisting their logs somewhere, and then maybe that doesn't get cleaned up. Can you delete from stack driver?
I don't know. So the I don't know. I was going to say the reason you're seeing usage increase over time is because we've been running more tests over time, but we haven't been increasing tests each and every day.
I think you partially pay, you have to pay for storage of logs as well. So it could be related to that. If we're not deleting it, then it would be constantly growing. But I guess there's going to be a bounded time period that we'd store it for. I don't quite know, actually. I need to dig in.
Okay. I unfortunately don't have the bandwidth to dive into this. Do we feel like I should cut tests back over to the other build cluster in the interim? Or Tim, you are muted, unfortunately. Or you're talking, but we can't hear you, which is weird. Even though Zoom doesn't think you're muted.
For some reason, my hardware mute got pressed. Can you hear me better now?
Yes, I can. Yes,
All right. I think I pressed it when I was trying to make you go louder. I don't think we need to not work and like, I don't think you need to cut back. Sorry. The money is there to be spent, and we're not really putting a dent in how much we have yet.
Okay.
So I'm not worried about it. I'm looking at the breakdown by project for just logging,
Right.
and they all look roughly equal, except there are lots and lots of them.
Right.
Right.
So the thing that's weirding me out real quick.
A load of feedback.
Okay. Sorry.
K8s Infra, E2E, Boscos, blah, 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 blah are, 9 of the top 10, with the other one being Kubernetes public.
So the number of E2 use, or the number of jobs that use a Bosco, it's this graph right here. So I had some number running until noon of May, and then I ramped it up. Untouched. The number of jobs that are running. In fact, the stack track is a little weird. But
Sorry to interrupt, Tim. Can you maybe mute? I think.
yeah, I got to mute it on Zoom. Yeah, Tim has an echo. So the number of projects that are consuming E2E projects, or all of the Boscos projects, is basically constant and has been constant for the last like 5 days. But you're right, James, the stack driver log cost per day has been going up. So maybe there is something about retention that we need to look into. Or it could be something about the way those clusters are stood up. Needs to disable logging to Stackdriver? I'm not entirely sure.
I wonder if any of those logs are actually used as well.
I doubt they are.
Okay.
Yeah, so we should take the action now that we have some visibility. Like, the truth is, it's probably always been costing this much. We just haven't paid attention because it was lost in the noise of everything else.
Right.
So now that we can see it, we can go and manage to it, which was sort of always the goal of this exercise. Can we file a bug and get somebody to, like, I wouldn't say it's urgent, but eventually somebody should go and take a look at this and see, is the value of the logs commensurate with the cost of them? And if not, should we change logging or purge logs, or what is the right action to take here?
Okay. Bart, can you put that down for an action item? Okay, I will stop my share of that window and go back to the agenda. Okay, so that kind of leads me to action item review. So as you saw, I stood up Crow build clusters. You know what, maybe I should just keep sharing that window. Where did it go? Okay, so we talked last meeting that I was going to come back with 2 build clusters, trusted and untrusted. I was going to start with a pool of projects that wasn't specific per SIG. We'll like figure out how to attribute the cost of jobs or SIG's jobs when we feel it is time to do so. I chose a naming scheme, and I aimed to have the clusters hooked up to K8s.io and some amount of migration of jobs. I did that in this pull request. Everything that's in this pull request I have basically actuated and made real. I'm a little uncomfortable with it hanging out unmerged. But I also don't want to be pushy to merge it. I want to make sure that, Tim, we get your eyes on roughly how I have set things up or structured them.
Okay, I apologize. I think maybe I lost this one in the noise.
That's okay. So I tried to summarize what's going on. I'm going to mute you real quick, Tim. The echo distracts me. But I've created 40 projects. As you saw, we are using some of them. I created some other projects to like manually pin jobs to for debugging. I created a build cluster per project so that we could ACL the projects differently. I also named the clusters differently so people couldn't jump from one project to the other and accidentally mess with the wrong thing. I have managed to port over a good chunk of the release blocking jobs for the master branch and the other release branches. I dumped most of what this did from an audit perspective in a PR, which we've merged, and then there are a bunch of follow-up tasks to be done. The big questions I have from a follow-up perspective would be number one, so Greenhouse is our Bazel cache. It's basically a high CPU instance to maximize IOPS, and then a pod is scheduled to that instance, and then we give it like a 3 terabyte SSD, so it's got all the IOPS to that SSD possible, and then anything that uses Bazel and is configured to do so uses that as a cache. It provides the most benefit to any of our pre-submit jobs that use Bazel. This is not just for Kubernetes, but for other projects like the Google Cloud Provider or Cloud Provider GCP, I think, uses it. So the ProwBuild cluster that I set up here in Kubernetes.io land, so we decided to set up as a regional build cluster. The build cluster that is used over in Google.com land is a zonal build cluster. And so we assume there's just one node that's configured as a high CPU node, and we pin Greenhouse to that. Since we're using a regional build cluster here, if I can't create a single node. I can create a single node per zone. And so I'm torn as to whether to just deal with it and have the other two like special nodes, just toss them in the build pool. Or if I try to like restrict the node pool locations for this cluster down to a single zone so that I think we'd have like a regional control plane, but a zonal node pool. I'm curious to hear what your opinion on this is, Tim.
What's the goal of being regional?
We had said the goal of being regional was to make sure that there was high availability for the control plane. What I have been given as feedback from the test infra team is they've never really had the control plane going down as an issue. The only other issue that has been encountered occasionally is that US Central 1 sometimes experiences stockouts, but because we kind of keep the build cluster at a relatively fixed size, we don't tend to bump into that. So I could also just tear this whole thing down and recreate it as a zonal cluster. I'm a little concerned about doing that and causing some downtime. But that's another option. That's option C.
Can't we still configure? Well, never mind. If we're concerned about master like a control plane downtime across things like upgrades than regional matters if we're really concerned about a zonal outage, which honestly we probably should be. Well, which role, this is the cache for all the builds. So if a zone went down for 6 hours, what would happen? It would be all CI would stop for 6 hours, right?
Or CI would get slower, I think.
The cache isn't, yeah, it's not blocking. It'll just fall back to local.
Oh,
But
well,
but if all of our other nodes were there and for some reason we couldn't reach them.
The other, sorry, go ahead.
We don't do a lot of adding and removing nodes, at least currently, except I guess during like upgrades. So that hasn't been an issue in years so far, but I could see it in the future depending on how we were managing it going forward.
The other thing to keep in mind is traffic across zones is network egress, which costs like 1 cent per gigabyte, I think. So there'd be some spend there. I don't think it would be obscene spend, but if we set up the
I'm not worried about that. I'm more worried about, like, does the 1 replica per zone fit what we need it to fit?
It kind of doesn't. So I'm not sure, option D here would be figure out some way to deploy a zone local instance of Greenhouse and have each zone's node pool talk to that instance of Greenhouse. That's a little more complicated than I have time for. If somebody else wanted to take that on, that would be awesome. I feel like the easiest compromise with what we have now is set up a node pool with a the 32 CPU instance, treat one of them special for Greenhouse, and leave the other 2 in the build pool. I don't know. Ben, you had some concerns when we were talking about that yesterday. Did you want
to? Sorry, and why is it 32 CPUs? Are we actually burning 32 cores?
It's because IOPS are directly related to CPU. So
I thought IOP was related to disk size.
It is that too. But right here, this is the IOPS performance for anything up to 31 CPUs. And this is anything from 32 to 63 CPUs.
And do we have a graph or something that shows us what sort of I/O we're doing?
This is the question I knew you were going to ask, and I don't have a phenomenal graph that shows the I/O usage.
Do we have anecdata? Like, I logged into the machine and I catted a bunch of proc files and it showed me that we were doing X thousand IOPS?
I have not been able to do that. Ken, you're muted right now.
This thing,
yeah, I'm just going to mute.
Sorry, this thing hasn't been touched in like 2+ years. It just works. I don't remember any numbers off the top of my head.
And sorry, just to make sure I understand, is this running in a cluster with other stuff, or is it just running by itself?
It runs in the build cluster, so the like access from the jobs that are building is just like it's just a service.
Okay, so if we have all these cores online, we just have a really big build cluster, right?
Yeah, there's a big build cluster.
And those other cores on that green field machine, green lighthouse, what do you call it? Lighthouse? Greenhouse. Sorry. The other cores are available for scheduling, or no?
I think right now it's tainted, so they're not.
Yeah, we've tainted it, so it's not. I don't know what the implications are if we were to allow things to schedule to it. I honestly don't know.
I think it would be fine. Not something we've looked at in a long time.
Yeah, for comparison's sake, the way the existing Prow build cluster is sized, it's 168 CPU instances. So 32 CPUs looks relatively tiny in the face of that. And even with that many instances, we appear to be hitting some kind of resource contention. So it may be undersized. So I feel like in the grand scheme of things, 32 CPUs seems like it's not going to be a lot of overhead. But I agree, it seems a little weird.
I just want to be, transparent and responsible. I'm not actually pushing that it's too much money. Please don't interpret it that way. It's a case of everything works when you throw more CPUs at it, but if we're frittering away our budget, that's a bad thing. So,
So
getting
I want
some.
to show you a graph for sure. Maybe we could get some help figuring
I'm
out.
not sure how important this thing is. I think Aaron was just moving it because we wanted to lift and shift like everything that we're running.
Yes.
If we continue down the path of using Bazel for a lot of stuff, I think Eric wants us to just use GCP remote build. Though I'm not sure where that's at. And there's also some contention about, how much we actually use Bazel. And if we're just using it for smaller projects, this is significantly less necessary. It's fairly impactful.
Also,
for
I have feelings about Bazel.
Sorry, what were you gonna say, Tim?
I said I have feelings about Bazel after the week I've had, the last 7 days I've had.
So I hear you loud and clear. I'm just operating right now with the goal of trying to get all of the release blocking jobs running on this cluster because they have a.
I don't think you should derail that. I think we should come back and manage money when we actually have a cleaner picture of it. Like, I would have never guessed that logging would be the lion's share of the cost, and so now we'll look into it. Right? That's fine.
So putting Greenhouse on here will benefit the kind jobs, and it will also benefit some of the Bazel build and Bazel test jobs.
And generally Kubernetes pre-submit.
And it opens the door to pre-submits. That's, I kind of can't do almost any pre-submit job without Greenhouse. So if there are no objections, I'll just do it the slightly manual way I was suggesting, where I stand up a node pool that is 132 CPU instance. And then I'm going to have to manually taint one of the nodes. So I set that aside for Greenhouse, but the other two nodes will just be part of the build pool that everything else gets.
Define manually taint.
kubectl apply, kubectl taint.
So what do you do the first time that gets upgraded and that node goes away?
That's a good question. I thought that taints stuck around, but I may be wrong.
Taints on a node pool will stick around, but that taints the entire pool.
Okay, so I could apply taints to the node pool and then remove the taints from two of the nodes.
You could also just give this a shot without this taint.
Give this what?
We could also you just need a label. You don't need the taint. We can just let other stuff schedule and see how that goes.
Okay.
Or you could make this Greenhouse job request 30 cores, and then the availability will be almost nothing for anything else anyway.
We have it running as a persistent, not a job.
Sorry, you have it running as a what?
We have it running as a service. Like, it's just a regular single pod deployment, and then a service bound to that.
Great, but if you make the pod request 30 cores.
Yeah. Okay. Let's try that.
And then we can come in and argue about efficiency later. Like, oh, your CPU usage is really, really low. Let's go tweak that.
Okay. Thank you for going through that journey with me. The other more pressing concern. Oh, sorry. Well, yeah. The other thing to do is to actually set up some sane ACLs for all of this. I really want the end state of all this to be that community members have visibility to troubleshoot what's happening in this cluster. And then a smaller, more restricted group of trusted community members have the ability to write things into this cluster or help mess with it in terms of troubleshooting. I'm gonna stop sharing this screen and come over to this computer. I basically want people to be able to view Stackdriver for logging and monitoring. Do you think that is an appropriate goal?
I'm sorry, say that again. I was reading the logs.
I would like community members to be able to view Stackdriver for monitoring and logging of these proud build clusters so that they can like troubleshoot what's happening.
I think that's reasonable. What we need to figure out is Stackdriver logging the right place for these clusters? Like, are the clusters durable clusters or are they ephemeral clusters in each of these?
So there are two clusters to keep in mind. One would be the build cluster. I swear I had
oh, right, got you. Sorry, my brain was still on the old logging problem. Yes, yes, but what does community members mean here?
That's a really good question that I feel like I need folks' help in crafting a policy. Just for the immediate moment, I want to make sure I'm not the single point of failure. I need more people than me to be able to do stuff to this. And so the people who have org admin privileges, such as yourself, Tim, and I think Christoph and Dims, have the same privileges as me, but I'd like to kind of have like a read-only group of people who could like see this, but not necessarily change things.
So I don't know off the top of my head what the granularity of permissions that Stackdriver offers is. But if the granularity of permissions is there, then we can go figure it out. And I don't have a problem granting read access to this pretty broadly. Unfortunately, there's just no way to say like everybody on the internet can go view this.
Yeah, not looking for that.
Unless we turn it into our own dashboard. But we can say, you know, the membership to PROW viewers is fairly loose. And if you want to be able to view PROW, go here to join that group, right?
Yeah, I think, so for example, I know that Signode is working on improving their test posture. Like they're kind of taking a look at all of the Node E2E test jobs. They're trying to figure out what they are willing to support, trying to figure out what else do they think they need. And I'd like to make sure that that group of people, you know, gets access to all of the troubleshooting that they need to do that task.
And I have a question. So why not just create dashboard for everybody? It should be straightforward to connect to put the dashboard, a few things like we can see right now, to the Grafana and open it to everybody.
I have no objection to it. I just don't know how to do it.
So I created, right now there is a test dashboard, Grafana dashboard on AAA, which I was playing with to do the monitoring. It's currently on my domain. I just sent it, but it is the Grafana working already there. So that would be very straightforward to just connect it to the Stackdriver.
That might be cool. I'm operating from the perspective of I don't have a lot of time to build something new. If somebody else wants to, I'm all for it.
Definitely, I can do it.
Okay. I'm viewing it as like when I was trying to help troubleshoot what was going on when all the Node E2E tests were blocked. I had to be able to go to a project page and be able to view all of the recent activity on that project, so I could see what was happening and what was getting blocked. I needed access to Stackdriver logs to see, what things thought they were doing, why, and it was helpful to see the Stackdriver monitoring page just to see like what that was about.
So yeah, so we'll just need to figure out what the list of those things is. The activity logs are interesting, although they're not. They shouldn't be sensitive, so we shouldn't hesitate to grant access to read those pretty broadly. I think
Yeah.
The audit logs just seem like that one oddball case.
Okay, audit logs, got you. That makes sense.
I mean, activity logs, right? But I understand how useful it is, and I can't right now think of a reason why we wouldn't want to let people see those.
Right.
Okay. Can I suggest to just do some proof of concept? I will see what permissions do we need to grant the Grafana, and let's see.
Sure, yeah. You can put that down as an action item. Okay. I think that's all of the Prow related stuff I wanted to talk about. Does anybody have any questions?
Oh, I just pasted my question. I was just poking around at the logging in the Boscos NNN clusters. The vast majority of the logs look like they're coming out of, I mean, the charge is just these log lines, right? What would happen if we spun up those clusters without logging turned on? Are the logs collected some other way?
Yeah, UDE tests dump the logs from the machines, I believe.
Yes, that's true. Logs for all of the Kubernetes components are written to disk, and then some other logs, like I think dmessage and Docker and stuff are collected as well. So those are all collected after the fact, assuming the node is reachable, whether the test has passed or failed. So yeah, there may be, I think that's the AI, is to figure out if there's a way to like disable Stackdriver logging in these clusters. It's probably going to involve digging in the bowels of kubecluster-up.sh, our favorite.
I think there's a variable for it. It's just a matter of finding which one.
Right. Okay, that was a long AI review. Sorry. Next up, Bart, you wanted to talk about turning down a cluster.
Quick ones, because the 2 weeks just passed and we can turn. I will write the Slack admins channel that we plan to turn off the cluster, and we can do it. Because as far as I know, and James maybe can tell more, everything works as expected.
Okay. So all Slack Infra is now running on AAA. Cool.
Yep, indeed. And there was no, at least nothing came to me with any problems. So.
Okay. You let me know when you've given the heads up, and I will also confirm nothing's on that cluster and get rid of it.
Yep, I will add it. The next thing is the DNS update automation, and unfortunately, I will probably need Team's eye on my refactoring pull request, because this is what I had to do to make it possible to use ProJob.
Okay.
And I created a pull request. So
is there a PR that's assigned to me?
It is.
Have you opened up a pull request with this? Oh, 862.
All right, I'm a little backlogged right now. I will try to shift to PRs before this week is out, and I'll push these ones to the front.
Perfect. And the last of my action item is actually retiring the node per dash. Today or tomorrow is the last date of lazy consensus. I've sent the email to the SIG node Google group, and we, I think, are ready to retire tomorrow.
Okay.
So nobody, they didn't get back on this?
Nobody. I will write after this call. I will write again an email with the reminder that there is like a few hours left, but I don't think that anybody will pick it up.
Okay.
And that's it from my side.
Okay. Two quick things before we get to the board. The first one's kind of a blocker for doing more stuff. As I was creating pools, projects to use for end-to-end testing, I hit the billing quota limit, I think, like the number of projects that are allowed to be linked to a billing account. So I opened up an issue where I described the questions to the form. Tim said, go ahead and fill it out. These things are usually auto-approved. I unfortunately haven't heard anything back. I filed it on Friday, so it's been a little over 3 business days at this point. I'm not sure what to do to escalate this, or if I should like tap Ihor on the shoulder to have him file it as a non-Googler. The effect of this is that we can't create any new staging projects for like cluster provider AWS, I think, is asking for a staging project. Right? It can't do that for them right now. I could try as a workaround, or to temporarily mitigate, I could try taking down the number of projects that I had set aside for end-to-end testing. It'll take me some time to do that, but that might give us some breathing room. But
let me see. I'm going to pull it up right now and see if, I mean, I don't even know who to talk to internally, but let's try not to like use our internal connections. So let me take a look real quick.
Okay.
This is for the staging projects, right? To which we push images.
This is for any project we create under this org. We currently have about 42 staging projects and 43 end-to-end test projects, and then sundry others.
Can't we merge some of them to reduce the number? Just suggestion.
That is a possibility. It's not something I have time to do, but we could have somebody revisit the entire staging project and bucket and service account, so on and so forth, per build artifact. I think I kind of liked having a project per thing, specifically for the reason you approached me, Claudia, where like if we want to start having like, if a given sub-project needs a specific secret to build their thing, it's by having things segmented up by sub-project right now, only they can have access to that secret. That's really great. If we start to merge everything into a single project, Google Cloud Build will always run as the same service account for a given project. And so we lose the ability to more granularly define which secrets which job has access to. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I see. Yeah, that makes sense.
But that is another mitigation we could try to do. But I feel like these are all workarounds around the fact that like, really, we need more than 100 projects. We need like at least 200 projects, probably more like 300. And I don't think projects are really that much of a problem. I think this is just a billing sanity check. Are you not making sure we're not like abusing our cloud usage or something. So Tim, you said you're going to take a look at it. I also feel like I should have Ihor give a poke at this as a non-Googler. That might make it go through better channels.
I'll look at this right away.
Okay, thank you. The next thing I just was alluding to earlier from CloudView, there is this job, which is building some of the images used in Kubernetes end-to-end tests. We want these images to be built for Windows. So before we had this running under Google Cloud Build, the way this worked was by having a secret that contained all the Windows, all the certificates to talk to something out there that could build Windows Docker images. Now that we've moved to Google Cloud Builder, we need some way to get these secrets over to that Cloud Build job. So I thought a good way to do this would be to use Google Cloud Secret Manager. And so right now I have something where I've turned on the Secret Manager API for all of our staging projects. But then I go through and actually bind things so that the staging project for building end-to-end test images gets access to secrets that are in the staging project for end-to-end test images. This could be a really convenient pattern going forward where each project gets to just dump secrets in there, and then Google Cloud Build will automatically have access to those secrets. A tighter approach that I'm kind of favoring is this Windows Docker Windows certificate might need to be used by multiple jobs all over the place. So I'd rather constrain access to just that secret and not opt to have that secret per project pattern. If anybody cares, please put your opinions on this pull request. Otherwise, I think I'm going to move forward with this approach.
So just FYI, I was able to create a test project just now. So maybe the quota increase has just been approved silently?
It's possible. I tried creating a project. Yeah, yesterday was the last time I checked. I haven't checked this morning, so that would be really cool. It's not just creating a project. Did you use Ensure Project? It's the thing that fails is linking the project to the billing account.
Yeah, no, I did that.
Okay, cool. That's
I mean,
great.
I didn't use the
That's
script.
great.
I just did use the clicky UI, so maybe I missed a step or something.
Okay. I'll stop my share there. Okay, before I go to the board, does anybody have anything specific they want to talk about or share? All right, to the board. So I'm walking from right to left. Static IP management is something we didn't discuss last time because you weren't here, Tim. Bart, did you maybe want to give us context on this issue?
Yep. So the issue is what currently we are doing is there is a shell script written like 2 weeks ago by me, which is responsible to create the static IP addresses, which we need then to inside the ingresses in the AAA cluster. The problem is that if we will not create the static IP addresses with the names, static names, the ingress will create some IP address, static IP address with some weird name, and it will be then kind of almost impossible to make it static. So because of that, we need to create them, and because of that, there is a shell script to do that. And there was a suggestion to, instead of using the shell script to create it, to use the Terraform, and that is this PR mostly about, and not PR, the issue.
Okay, and Tim, you were like, what if we just stop allocating them as static?
Yeah, I mean, we allocate them static out of habit because, like, historically we are paranoid like that. But like,
The case is
we
that
actually really,
even if we manually, they will be allocated as a static by the ingresses.
well, they're allocated, yes, but they're managed by Kubernetes and not by us. So we don't need to give them a name or any special.
Yep.
I have no strong preference one way or the other. If you want to,
I like the what we have now, to have them static, because it would be easier to completely recreate the whole cluster. I know that we probably will not do it, but still, if we would like to do it, it would be easier.
I'm fine. I don't have a strong preference either way. Whatever you think is best, I will go with.
Honestly, my approach, because this issue was created before we had a script, because it was completely done manually before. Right now, my opinion is to just ignore Terraform for now and leave the script as it's working fine.
okay, so shall I say,
It is just an improvement, not.
so we do have a script to do this and you're happy with this script and we think we'll just continue this pattern.
That's my idea for now.
Okay, next up, so I went over quota increases, image promotion process. I haven't heard from Linus lately to understand where we are with the vanity domain flip. I think that's why this is open right now.
Yeah, so I can give a quick update on that. The first flip realized that because of the length of time that this project has existed, it's grown roots down into a bunch of other stuff that we couldn't easily have predicted. So we are disentangling those things. Because of all the virus and stuff, it's difficult to get the bandwidth that we want for this thing that isn't super critical to some of these other teams to help us with. And so we're just fighting for priority to get these disentanglements done. At this point, we're basically day for day slip. Like we have a few days, maybe a week's worth of like work to do by these teams, and every day they're not doing it, it gets pushed out. So right now I'd estimate, I don't know, end of this month we're hoping for another shot. We want to start it on a Monday so that we don't have to go over a weekend. So we missed this week, so maybe we'll hit on the 18th, but that seems unlikely, so maybe it'll be the 25th.
Okay.
I think I was too quick. I just read an email that somebody picked up the node per dash 2 minutes ago.
I pinged them backside too and said, this is going to get retired if you don't step it up right now.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay, cool. Thank you for the update, Tim.
Bart, as with everything here, like, all these other teams that we want to get to do stuff, they're like, but it already works. Why do I have to do anything? Like, I'm trying to be sensitive to the fact that we're making these other teams do work for good goals, but for many of them, this is one of these like unfunded mandates. So trying to be patient, but this is a case of we've been pinging them for 2 months. So
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, I just thought it at least it looks broken, so I thought nobody uses it.
So per namespace billing information, Bart, you're blocked on this because you were unable to copy the data sources that come with the Data Studio report.
Progress, I saw that we have that email address, but MPQ I didn't have time to check.
So I did create a G Suite user called WG K8s Infra billing. I put the password in a secret, and then everybody in the K8s Infra GCP accounting group can use that password to log in as that user. I think it's on Justin to try creating a copy of the report and see if the data sources will migrate over. Being respectful of the fact that we have about 5 minutes left, are there any issues either in the in progress column or the backlog column that people really want to talk about? Otherwise, I'll just keep on rolling. We need a script to create service account keys for this K8s Conform project.
No progress from it. Probably I will not have time this week, but next Monday I will do it.
Okay. Allowing subprojects to push to K8s artifacts prod root. I think we just need to approve a PR. But the gist of this is...
Yeah, I think that's, everything should be finished there. Augustus did go with the suggestion by Tim, which is instead of duplicating everything, either by symlinks or duplicating, Linus suggested, or at least that was the result, was that we can just add another promotion target, which is the root, and then it will duplicate them. It will take the first one as a source and then push them to both things, one with a prefix, one without the prefix. And I think it should be done as far as what I've got from the PR.
Okay. There's a part of me that kind of wants like an all caps explainer somewhere that describes that like this is kind of the only place this is allowed and why and how we came to that decision. I will comment as such on the PR.
I'm a big fan of scary comments.
Yeah. Let's see. In the backlog, turning down something based on node perf dash, so we're going to have to wait on that as we work to migrate perf dash. Okay. Node perf dash. Skipping that. Tim, just since you were asking about, I really wish we had something that like ran the audit scripts every hour. I had started on something that does run the audit script every hour, but what is missing is the follow-up of like creating a pull request with the results of the audit script. It would be a great project for somebody to take on if they wanted to. We use a tool over in Test Infraland called PR Creator, which will automatically create a pull request of a given, it'll like push to a given branch or force push to that given branch, and it will create or update an existing pull request that is from that branch. It's how we have a pull request out there to bump Prow and all of its stuff to the latest versions. So we could use that to do the same thing for this audit script. It just has a lot of like assumptions about the fact that it runs in Test Infra that need to be kind of reworked. So that's what's holding this up.
So I still am open to help, but not this week. If there is somebody who have more time, I'm definitely open to shadow or help, or I will have time next week.
Okay.
Look at it.
I might have some time next week, but I don't think this week I'm going to have any time.
Okay.
I have had some experience with the PR creator at least.
We got 1 minute left. I think I'm going to call it here.
James, I think that we can sit together next week. I don't know, Monday, Tuesday, and decide what are our plans, and we can do it together. What do you think?
That sounds good. Let me confirm with you on a day, but yeah, something maybe Tuesday or Wednesday might work better. I think
Sounds
we're going to
good.
have a busy week next week and end of this week.
Mhm.
Okay. That is our hour. Thank you
Thanks,
all.
everyone. I'll keep poking into the quota thing, see if I can come up with any. Basically, it seems like it works, but I can't view what our quota assignment is right now. So I'm trying to figure out why that is.
Okay. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, everyone. See you later.
All right. Have a happy Wednesday.
Thanks. Stay healthy, everyone.
Bye.